everybody, Steve here, and today we're taking a look at Diggin Deep Golf. This game is designed by Rob Lennon, produced by Diggin Deep Sports. It was released earlier this year, 2014, and it's mainly designed for solo play. Now, the length of the game is going to depend on which mode of play you use. There are actually 3 ways that you can go through a round. You can do a quick round where you just roll the dice once to see what a golfer's score is. There's a hole-by-hole approach where you'll roll once for each hole. And then finally there's a shot-by-shot where you'll have individual dice rolls for the drive, the approach, and then finally the putt to see what the golfer scores on each hole. Now along the way you might get a check the deck result where you'll find the golfer battling flu-like symptoms. Maybe they'll find their groove hitting off the tee, or there might even be some rogue gophers that are keeping the groundskeepers from their other duties. And then there's the signature digging deep points that just may give the golfer an extra edge that they need to win a tournament. So how does this all come together? Well, let's take a look at the game components. I'll show you a couple samples of play, and then I'll tell you what I think after further review. So the main download of the game comes with a couple of charts. One of them details the injury and trouble charts. And then there's a reference chart for when you're doing shot by shot. And this will detail exactly how the flow of a hole will go when you're doing shot by shot and where you're going to take your approach from. The rule booklet itself is 18 pages, but the last few pages are actually a detailed sample of play that will show you exactly how the game plays out. It's a very simple rule book to follow along with. First it'll show you how to do a quick play, then a hole by hole, and then finally the shot by shot. And then here's what the holes will look like for each of the different modes of play. So for a quick play, hole by hole, and then stroke by stroke or shot by shot. And how these are going to work, very simply, if you're doing a quick play, you'll just roll 2 10-sided dice, and if the result is a 1 through 50, it's going to come off the golfer's card, and if it's a 51 through 100, you'll read it up here. So in this case we rolled a 98, so they would have scored a 77 for that round of play. If you're doing hole by hole, you'll roll 3 10-sided dice, and a result of 1 through 500 will be read from the player's card, and then 501 through 1000 will be read from the hole card. So in this case we rolled a 301, and that just simply means that we got a par for that hole. And then finally, if we're doing a shot by shot, again you're going to roll the 3 dice, and you start with the drive. And again, if you roll a 1 through 500, it'll be read from the player's card, and they'll have a drive, an approach, and a putt section. And if it's a 501 through 1000, you'll read it from the hole card. So in this case, a 349 on the drive would be up here, and that would mean that Rory's drive ended up in the rough, and so our next shot would be a more difficult approach shot. And then the next thing we'll talk about on the player's cards is their different ratings here, and that's for a drive, approach, putt, and injury, and they're all traditional letter grades, with an A+ being the best. And these are going to come into effect when you have a check the deck result. And so there is a deck of 72 cards, and there's 4 different varieties of cards. You'll have green cards, and these were always going to be attribute checks or rating checks. And it'll have the rating up here that you're going to be checking, and that's going to tell you what happens if the player passes or fails that check. The blue cards will be chances to get more digging deep points, or to lose digging deep points. The red cards will be possibly injuries for the players, and that's where the injury rating will come into effect. And then finally, the black cards are kind of wild cards, and a lot of random things will happen. Some good, some bad, but always interesting for sure. And a check the deck result is going to come up anytime a roll of 901 through 1000 happens, and that's for both playing hole by hole and shot by shot. All right, and then finally, we'll just look at the digging deep part of the player cards. And you'll see here that Phil Mickelson starts with 5, whereas Rory only has 1. And then you'll see the different things listed here. And this is when the player is allowed to use their digging deep points. And the different occasions that you can use one is the pre, which means the first 2 days of the tournament or before the cut. Saturday and Sunday, which would be the final 2 rounds of a tournament. And then finally, the 3 different kinds of holes, a par 3, a par 4, or a par 5. So as you can see, Mickelson, he has 5 digging deep points, and he can use them any time of the tournament and on any hole of the tournament. Whereas McIlroy, he only has 1 digging deep point. He can't use that point the first 2 rounds of the tournament. He can only use it on Saturday or Sunday, and he can only use it on par 3s. So a quick example of using the digging deep, we'll go to the 8th hole at TPC Sawgrass, which is a par 3. As we see on Rory's card, that's the only hole that he can use his digging deep point on. So you just declare it, you roll the dice, and then look at the result. In this case we got a 443, and so that tells us that he got the green plus result, which would give us a mid-range putt for birdie. And of course you see the difference is if he hadn't dug deep on that, he would have actually missed the green. And that's how you use digging deep points. And finally, there's a score sheet that you can print out so you can keep track of all your golfers' scores for a full 18 holes or 1 round of golf. So how does this all work and come together? Well, I've actually played through 8 holes with Mickelson and McIlroy using hole-by-hole results. So what I'll do is I'll play out the 9th hole here at the TPC Sawgrass using the hole-by-hole results, and then I'll play out hole number 10 with a shot-by-shot so you can see an example of both of those. Okay, so we're stepping up to the 9th hole here at TPC Sawgrass in Ponte Verde Beach, Florida. And McIlroy has the honors, so he will tee off first. So we roll the 3 10-sided dice, and we're going to read them in red, white, and blue order. So we rolled a 348, and that's going to come off of his card. And so this is a BO4. So what that means is if we're playing on a par 4, which we're not, it will be, he would get a bogey. So since we're on a par 5, that means that he gets a par. And now Mickelson will tee off. And we rolled a 440, so that will also come off of his card. And he gets a BI5, which is a birdie on a par 5. And we are on a par 5, so just like that, Mickelson gets a birdie. Okay, so here we are at the 10th hole. And Mickelson has honors, so he will go first. He'll step up to the tee box. And he rolled a 977. So that means that we're going to go to the check the deck. So we'll draw a card. And it's a green card, so that means it's a rating check. And this one, it's an approach rating of C- or better. And it says if passed, then subtract 1 stroke from the final score on the hole. We're on a par 4, so if we get an eagle or a birdie, we'll disregard this. But we'll see his approach is a B-, so he easily passes the rating check. And then we're going to roll again to see what happens on his drive. So 752 means that we're going to the hole card. And the top blocks are for the driving results. So a 752 tells us that he hit his drive into the fairway if his drive rating is a B or better. And unfortunately for Phil, his drive is a D minus. So that means that he knocked it into the rough. So we'll go up to the reference chart, and we're going to be using this bottom one here because his drive ended up in the rough. And then this tells us what each of the different results from the player card will mean. So we'll roll the second shot for Phil. And it's a 114, so that will come from his card. So now we'll look in the middle approach section, and a 114 gives us the G plus result. So up here on the from the rough section, we'll see that the second shot, a G plus, means that it's on the green and he'll have a long range putt chance for his birdie chance. And you'll see that if he had kept his drive in the fairway, that a G plus result would have given him a mid-range shot for birdie. So now we'll putt. So he's putting for birdie from long range. And on the bottom there is the putt chart. So we'll roll, and it's a 384. So that will come from the player card. So we get a result of B. And so we go up to the putting chart. A B for a long is a miss, which means that the golfer misses the putt and comes up short by a few feet, and he has to spend one extra stroke for the tap in. And so he would tap it in for par, except that we have this rating check card that he passed, and so that means that we get to subtract one from the final score of the hole. So Mickelson will actually end up with a birdie, and now we'll see if Rory can keep pace. So his drive, he rolls a 772, so that'll come from the hole chart, and that's the fairway if his drive is a B. And he's going to just miss. His drive is a B minus. So again, he'll be having his approach shot from the rough. We'll roll the second one, and we get a 402. So that will come from the player card. And a 402 is the MG result. So looking down there, that means he missed the green completely, and he's going to have to re-roll again on the approach chart. So bad drive and a bad approach. So his third shot is a 452. And oh boy, Rory falling apart here. So his third shot also misses the green. So now his fourth shot will be another approach, still trying to find the green, and we roll a 558. And that says a green short if his approach is a D. And his approach is a C. So that means that he'll get a short putt to make bogey. So he's on the green, lane 4. And we get a 974, so that's a check the deck. And we get another drive rating check, and this is if the drive is a C plus or better, and his drive is a B minus, and so we're going to subtract 1 from the final score of the hole. So that's actually really good for him. So now he'll be putting for par instead of putting for bogey. So we get a 221. So that'll come from here. So he gets an A. And A on a short putt means that he sinks it. And so then we'd go on to hole number 11 with Mickelson having honors and a slim one-shot lead over McIlroy. Alright, so there's a look at Diggin Deep Golf. So as you can see, whatever mode of play you're looking for in a golf game, this one has you covered. Whether you want to just roll once for each player for a round to see what they score, or if you want to get right down into the shot-by-shot minutia and then decide when they use their digging deep points, you can also play the game out that way. If I had to mention a downside to the game, the only one I can really come up with is that right now it's only available as a PDF, so there are a lot of cards that you'll need to print out and cut out. The check the deck is 72 cards, and if you use the deluxe cards like I printed out, there's a lot of color and ink involved. However, there is a more basic set of cards that doesn't have the pictures on them, so it's a little more ink friendly if that's a concern for you. So other than that, everything that you'd want in a tabletop golf game, you're going to find here in Diggin Deep Golf. And if you like what you saw here, head on over to the Diggin Deep Sports website, check out the seasons that they have, so you can hit the links today. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. My name's Steve, and I'll see you next time after further review.